I had 3 months to get proficient in C++ before starting to develop what ended up being a mini game engine for tile-based games like Candy Crush and Tetris. It would take a simple game design language that I'd made up, pass it into the engine, and would render a playable game. I want to share the challenges I faced and provide you with an actionable 3-step framework to learning any programming concept. As I opened up my project for the first time, I was hit with a sudden wave of anxiety, realizing I had no idea where to start. I'm sure you felt like this before, right? I still experience it even now. So what should you do? You should try to build the simplest thing you can possibly think of. In my case, I had to build a whole game engine, but that was way too big. So I broke it down further. What is one of the smaller components that is crucial to my project? The parser. Even that seemed way too complicated, so I broke it down even more. What is one thing the parser needs to do? Well, it needs to read from a file. That sounded simple enough for me, so I looked up guides on reading from a file in C++. I found various code snippets on different forums and copied one that I had a basic understanding of, and bam, I had a working file reader. The second step in your road to mastery should be to expand that really simple thing you've just built, even if you just change a small aspect of it. In my case, the file reader was correctly reading the file line by line, but I wanted it to ignore white space to make things easier later on. This step was crucial as it forced me to understand the code snippet and adapt it to my needs. Now, I had a new C++ skill in my tool belt for future use. This is what usually happens when we're starting out. We accept that something works until we need to improve it. Much like a child who doesn't know how a bicycle works until they need to fix it. Then they learn. So if you've ever watched someone code and wondered how they do it, without looking anything up, it's usually because they've done something similar before. In other words, they've likely struggled with getting that specific thing to work in the past. Sucking at something is the first step to being kinda good at something. Next, I needed to separate the strings into different tokens to differentiate when a statement started and ended. As my program grew, I was plagued with thoughts like, am I doing this in the best way possible? What if I'm writing all this code only to end up wasting time refactoring it? Am I even following best practices? But then I realized I didn't even know how to code properly in C++. So how could I know the best practices? The alternative approach was to try to memorize a bunch of rules before starting. That's just boring and counterproductive. What I needed to do was to stop being afraid of failure. Failure is a great thing as long as you learn from it. So I made the ugliest, most inefficient algorithm, looping through the array with a bunch of if statements. This approach proved a dead end and halted my progress. Failing helps you identify the gaps in your knowledge, and that's exactly what happened to me. Since I failed, I asked myself, there must be some piece of knowledge that would help me progress. I just need to find it. It turns out that I needed to create a BNF tree. How did I find that out? Well, I started reading articles about what approaches other people took when creating parsers. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, it's that there's absolutely nothing wrong with simply copying code when you're starting out, as long as you understand what you're copying and you're genuinely able to modify it to suit your needs. Think back to the good old days when you were writing your very first hello world function. Did you or did you not just copy it from a textbook? Then you read through the explanations for each line of that piece of code, understood how it worked, then you figured out how to modify it to insult a friend. If you found any value in this video, please consider leaving me a like and subscribing to my channel for more videos like this. If you want to know about my journey from university to my current software engineering job, consider starting on this video.